Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed about ghosts. Paranormal investigators. I don't like con artists, and whether they're knowingly exploiting the gullibility of others or are so simple-minded that they believe their own gimmick doesn't really make a hell of a lot of difference to me. They're ripping people off. How do I know? Well, there are several clues, arguably the biggest of which is ghosts don't fucking exist. But despite their obvious non-existence, we do know a thing or two about ghosts. For instance, they're a false consolation. Because if there are ghosts that used to be people, then death isn't the end of the line. Then there is something in us that is not of the body, that is immortal. Death isn't the end, it's just the beginning. It's not the cessation of all life function leading to a permanent loss of consciousness and the total annihilation of the self. It's just a transitional period. Oh, wishful thinking. Without you, there's so much stuff we wouldn't be able to believe. They're boring. Admittedly, this is kind of an argument from incredulity, but I am actually incredulous at how mundane and tedious most supposed ghost encounters are. I mean, anomalies in photographs or audio or video footage, people reporting weird noises or unaccountable voices or just catching a fleeting glimpse of something out of the corner of their eye, pots and pans banging together, doors or windows opening and closing. I mean, you know, in Hagerstown, there's a historic house, the Hager House, where the guides tell spooky ghost stories, like the time they heard footsteps on the staircase when no one else was there, or the corncob doll that was turned around the other way that one time. Ghosts did these things? They crossed back over from the spirit world for that? Incredulous. There are better explanations for everything they supposedly do. So you believe in ghosts, right? Let me ask you this. What is more likely? That the orbs, say in that photograph, are something otherworldly, or that they are optical artifacts? Or that voice that you heard, is it more likely that that is actually a disembodied voice speaking to you from the other side? Or was that just an auditory hallucination? Or the white lady, or the ghostly soldier on the battlefield, or any of the other apparitions that lots of people report seeing at particular locations. Are they really the spirits of the dead coming back to haunt us, or are they just the result of the power of suggestion? And if there is a plausible natural explanation for something a ghost was supposedly responsible for, and there always is, why then should we ever appeal to the supernatural? And here's the other thing about those natural explanations as compared to the supernatural explanations. The actual explanations are always way more interesting. I've made this point before in other videos, but it bears repeating here. The real world, the world we can see and measure and quantify and understand, is so much more interesting than the vague, uninspiring world of spirits and specters of which lovers of the supernatural are so overly fond. Orbs appear on film and in video because of the way light reflects off of tiny particles suspended in the air, and you can actually reduce or even eliminate them just by changing the angle of your light or increasing the distance between your light and your lens. And auditory and visual hallucinations, they actually happen to a lot of us at all kinds of times for all kinds of different reasons, not just when we're really drunk or really high or mentally ill. You know, our sense organs only collect raw data. It's actually our brains that do the hearing and the seeing by processing and translating and interpreting that data into comprehensible images and sounds. So why is it so hard to believe that our brains, especially if they're under the influence of a ghost story or a spooky atmosphere, could make us think that we are seeing or hearing things that aren't actually there? And why is it so difficult for so many of us to accept that another phenomenon like cognitive bias, which is a very well understood and virtually universal human phenomenon could cause us to misinterpret memories or experiences or other data and lead us to accept a ghostly explanation for something as opposed to a natural one. I mean, these are very common, very well understood, and fascinating phenomena, real phenomena. And to just reject them, to sweep them aside and chalk things like orbs or apparitions or unexplained voices or other unexplained occurrences up to ghosts is just to perceive the world as a far less wondrous place than it actually is. Those who add the supernatural to the natural only succeed in diluting and diminishing the very real physical universe in which we are all so fortunate to exist. And that might be the stupidest thing of all. The hardest part is only picking 5. Catch you next time.